So, Tero, how long have we known each other?
Quite a few years. I think that we met in 1983.
Yeah. So.
Can you count that many years?
I think it's a lot. Mm-hmm. Must be 35 years.
Yeah.
That we've known each other, and we've worked together in many capacities.
Right.
You know, we've been business partners. We've been, I've been a client
right.
Of yours a couple of times.
Yeah.
We've also been friends for a
right.
long time.
Yeah.
For a long time.
And writing books together.
Writing books together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First one was early 90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And now more books coming.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Finland, it's probably not a stretch to say that you are the most well-known consultant in the country. I don't think that's a stretch.
Well, you need to, yeah. Well, some papers have mentioned that.
Well, and I know I've never heard you say it, but I've heard other people say it. When I was there visiting. So it's really nice that we're able to sit here together
right.
At my home and talk about some of the work that we're doing together.
You know what my goal is, and it's nicely moving, and it is that you are the best-known American guru in Finland.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
That's good.
It's interesting that MIT is saying that this technology is changing 4 times quicker now, accelerating the change 4 times quicker than it used to.
Yeah.
And it is creating a new needs for, and every company knows that there's technology is changing. The internet is changing our things, but a new business model appear from there.
Yeah.
96% of the CEOs in the world are saying that they have to change their business model.
Yeah.
And that this business model and strategy is not working. That's the problem.
Well, what I think would be interesting, Tero, is if you can give a little bit of the background, because I found it so compelling when you described it at first. I knew that there was an issue between strategy and implementation. Mm-hmm. I just didn't realize how big the gap was, and how it left a vacuum there, or a hole there. And so I'd be interested to hear how you got there.
Well, it was a big study, really. We interviewed so many people and took several hundred companies we studied, and we found out that yes, we know the leadership, operational leadership, and operations is clear. We need strategy more than ever, but in between them, where really a leader earns his or her stripes is the third area, a big hole, as you might call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in large companies, the hole is about 2/3 of the influence of a leader. So if that is not addressed, we are just limping forward with 1/3 of the influence
of the power.
Yeah.
The full power. So
yes.
we're losing the power in the translation between the strategy and the implementation gets lost. 2/3 of the power gets lost there.
Right.
That's a big hole.
Yeah, it is.
That's a big hole.
And it is kind of settled for, or saddled rather, for leaders to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not only the leadership that you are personally doing, but if the systems around you, they are not providing in timely, reliable information for you to lead, you are lost there. So a lot of things are really playing role there and forming that big hole. There are a lot of small holes there.
Yeah, that's really something. And one of the things that that I was observing was and here I am sitting first in Unilever and then in Blackstone, and this gap opening up between the value that we were trying to create. In Unilever's case, we were trying to double the share price in a relatively short period of time. And in Blackstone's case, we had an investment case each time in which we were trying to create a delta in value.
Yeah, actually, you are working with 100 companies in series.
Yeah.
It's not only one company.
Yeah, you had 100 of these transformations going on.
Yeah.
And there was a disconnect, similar kind of disconnect between the value and the talent.
Yeah.
And so, this hole opens up.
Yeah, actually, I think that every leader knows that strategy is hard to implement. There's a gap there. But what they don't realize was the point you just made, that the connection between people and business, or more clearly, value and talent, that hole is because of that, they only realize that plans are not implemented.
Yeah, and fascinating, when you think about the vertical that you're describing, the strategy is here and the implementation is here, and a gap opens up. Yeah. And the CEO typically, helped by other people, is responsible for the strategic direction of the business and whether it gets implemented.
Right.
But then flanking the CEO is the CFO, who is usually sitting there responsible for the numbers, the value, the business results. Yeah. And then sitting over here is the CHRO, who is responsible for the talent. Yeah. And if you don't get the CEO, the CFO, and the CHRO all working together, as opposed to, I do people, and that's what I do, and I do money, and that's what I do, and you do strategy. But if strategy, people, and money don't all sort of converge, then this hole is predictable.
Very much so, and that's why I think that we need to have a new area. I would call it, and we have called in the book, leadership design. You have to design a plan because this is not happening now. Yeah. And that's why hole exists, and it is really a major reason why leaders are fired, because he didn't get the strategy implemented.
Yeah, yeah. And so a hole opens up. First the strategy falls in, and then the CEO falls in.
Yeah, and with CEO, many other careers.
Yeah, and a whole bag of careers go down into the hole.
Right.
And so, when we started thinking about this and talking about maybe we should do a book on it, I found the whole thing so compelling because we've been kicking around this leadership stuff for a long time. And we
longer than we need to count it.
And we saw the end of the era of leadership, which was all about traits and finding someone who possessed certain kind of character,
right?
And that was a leader, and that was good enough. And if you had a business model which was stable and an environment that was fairly stable, and it was even good enough when changes started to happen slowly. But then, you saw that model say, well, we need someone who is a good person, and we need someone who can change their behaviors depending upon the situation. So the situational model and all of these 360 feedback and changing leader behavior to the
important,
very
very
important. Yeah. So you need a good person who can also change their behavior and adapt to the situation. Then you run into this hole, and you need someone who can design a way, because you can't behave your way across that hole.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of people have tried it.
Yeah.
And just by saying, we're all going to behave differently, if your business model goes away, that's not so easy.
Yeah, and actually, when this hole exists there, this personal leadership, if you will, is about 40%. So 60% is all things that you are relying on that you can lead and be your best. So, and this is coming from the change all the time.
Yeah.
Strategies, new business models, they are setting new requirements, and we really need to have it all
Yeah.
to fill that hole.
Yeah, and and I think that what makes the problem even more pronounced or amplified even more is the external rate of change.
Yeah.
And when you have the kind of technological change that we have happening and the kind of disruption that is occurring in businesses, and some of that disruption a lot of it is driven by technology. There is also a lot of disruption that is caused by different financial kinds of players. So whether it's activist investors or private equity firms or hedge funds, all of this financial pressure together with technological shift, now you have the rate of change. It has, and you were using a statistic about MIT. What was that?
So it has multiplied. So the technology has multiplied the speed of change by 4. But by the way, weather changes have been driving about 3 times bigger where they occur. So there are a lot of other factors that are affecting.
This rate of external change. And if I'm sitting there and a lot of the toolkit, we were talking about this yesterday, a lot of our toolkit is built on yesterday's business becomes tomorrow's business.
Yeah.
And what I need to do is to execute better. And so tools like Six Sigma and continuous improvement and so on are really helpful and useful. But now we're in an age of disruption, and therefore we really need discontinuous improvement.
Yeah, that's an interesting term, because discontinuous is kind of regarded as a bad thing, and because it's causing all those waves. But really, to respond on that, you have, as a leader, do that. It's not anymore enough if you are doing that continuous improvement, because when the road makes the turn, you are driving directly to the forest, so to say.
Right. Yeah, and so there were lots and lots of discussions in boardrooms about continuity. What we have to ensure through the way that we think about leadership and the way that we think about our business is to ensure continuity. And that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And you would never have a discussion about we need a leader that is going to disrupt our business. But what we need to begin to think about is making disruption positive. So how does disruption become a positive thing, and how do we disrupt things in a positive way?
Yeah.
That we're able to bring people with us.
Well, we've been doing that for, many years, maybe 30 years with the capital, right?
Yeah.
So we are being, it is velocity and fastness and even a new private equity and other players have come into the field, but it's not so easy to do with human capital.
Yeah.
And that's why we need a new model for leadership, a new thinking of leadership, so that we can respond on these new needs.
Yeah, because if the value shifts in the market, and we need to redeploy our capital to a place where it's going from lower returns to higher returns, because the value is moving around, and there's lots of evidence that that's happening.
Yeah.
But when you say, well, how are we going to rapidly redeploy the human capital?
Yeah.
That's not so easy.
Yeah,
that's not so easy.
Yeah.
And
a lot of emotions and a lot of pain and a lot of reasons why people are not doing it. Actually, it's kind of a situation that we are taking a lot of market risks so that we don't need to change inside.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, because I found in working in private equity that our investors were ready to take huge financial risks and were very reluctant to take risk when it came to people.
Yeah.
And very reluctant to take operating risk commensurate with the financial risk. And that's interesting, which speaks to the need to have repeatable, good, strong analytical methods by which we can rapidly redeploy human capital.
Yeah, and it really makes sense to make all those things if you are linking it to that value creation. So really, if you have on a table value, that much value there, that is a coordinating point for actions around what we do.
Yeah.
Without that, we start to play, power games and all kind of secondary things. But if we have a value in mind, that kind of tunes us to do the right things.
Yeah.